Alright, this is a showdown between the Leatherman Wave multi-tool and the Leatherman Charge Tti. These are two great multi-tool offerings from Leatherman. Very complete packages in terms of, offer of tools offered inside of these devices. This is my Leatherman Wave multi-tool. I've had it for a number of years. It's kind of well worn in that respect. And then this is a brand new tool to me, the Leatherman Charge Tti. I picked this up recently, and so I thought it might be nice to compare the two since they're very similar in terms of what tools they have internally. Right off the bat, just looking at the pliers, the classic Leatherman combinations type style pliers where you have your needle nose plier, regular plier, cutting area, notched for hard cutting. All that crap. I mean, it's just, it's regular pliers, but Leatherman likes to break it down that way. But looking at that, they've added one tool into the mix on the Charge Tti, and that's this crimp area. And now, when I first got this, I thought that this was, going to be, oh, this is great. This is a nice crimper. I can use this for things that I crimp, like butt splices. This is something I use a lot. This is a butt splice, and so the way this works is that you strip pieces of wire. Well, you would hope this wire is connected to something like a lamp, maybe, and then you can put the wire in like that, and then you would try and come in and crimp it like that. And then you can come from the other end with another wire, and so it you can bridge this gap. But the problem is that this crimper doesn't really work for that. As you can see, after I've crimped it, it pulls out because it's just not designed for this style of crimping. So I found that to be a little bit disappointing. So I'm not really sure what this crimper is for. Maybe you can tell me in the comments below if what you know it's for. It's not for butt splices. At least not a standard 18 to 22 gauge butt splice. So yeah, that's what it is. Other than that, the pliers seem to be mostly identical. I think they're made out of the same materials. So, nothing really to worry about there. Moving on, I think the next noticeable difference that you'll find in these multi-tools is in the serrated knives. So the serrated knife on the Leatherman Charge Tti, they've implemented a gut hook, which is new, and then this is the old Leatherman Wave. And I think this is still pretty prominent throughout Leatherman's other multi-tool offerings, but at least on this version of the Charge, they have this gut hook here. It looks kind of cool, and I guess it adds something to the knife. I don't think it's particularly earth-shattering to have a little gut hook or a strap cutter or whatever this might be. I suppose that's a really safe way to cut something like a strap or like a zip tie or a rope or something. I don't know. That's probably a safe way to do it, is just to hook it on and pull. But yeah, other than that, the knives are basically identical. They have the same style of serration. They're about the same length, it looks like. So really nothing too interesting there. Moving on to the fine edge knife, you'll find the next difference between these two multi-tools. The fine edge, which is really the showstopper as far as I'm concerned. The coolest tool on the Leatherman after the pliers is the fine edge knife. And on this one, the Leatherman Charge Tti, they've changed the metal. This is, if you can focus here, this is the it says S30V on there. So I don't really know what that means. I guess it means that they've changed the steel from this steel. It's probably a better steel than the one that is on the Leatherman Charge. I'm sure it's a better steel. Like I said, I've had this Leatherman Wave for a really long time, and an amount of time, and I've used the knife a lot. I've tried to sharpen it, not to much success, but it seemed fine. It performed about as I expected, and then I probably made it worse when I tried to sharpen it. So I've never had a lot of success with sharpening knives. If this is better, that's great. But I don't necessarily think that this knife is worthless just because there's a better knife. It seems it's probably perfectly fine, and then the improvement may only be marginal. I don't know. I'm not an expert in this sort of thing, but I'm sure that lots of people have opinions on it that are very loud opinions, and they can share those in the comments of this video. Moving on to the next difference. which is, I guess, refers to these outer scales. On the Leatherman Wave, they're just stainless steel, which is typical and classic to Leatherman. I think all their multi-tools have always been stainless steel, at least all the modern ones. Unless they're, some sort of polymer, obviously, or aluminum, maybe. But, stainless steel is a very typical offering for Leatherman in terms of the construction of a multi-tool. But they mixed it up a little bit, and now they have titanium on this Charge. And wow, that sounds so sexy to have it made out of titanium. But in practical application, it doesn't really seem to make a difference other than the fact that you get to say that your multi-tool has parts of it that are made out of titanium. The internal tools, they all still seem to be stainless steel, and Leatherman isn't really clear on their website where the titanium begins and ends on this tool. But as far as I can tell, it still seems to be stainless steel. In fact, I think if I bring a magnet in here, I'll be able to, I don't think titanium is ferrous. It is pulling a little bit here, but it might just be attracted to the knife behind that scale. Yeah, it was. So yeah, the titanium right here doesn't really seem to be pulling this magnet very much at all. But then, the main body is still stainless, at least to this test, which is, obviously a conclusive and scientific test that, only a scientist would perform. But anyway, so that's a magnet. I'm sticking to it. So stainless steel is not tremendously magnetic, but if you have a really strong magnet, if you have a really strong magnet like the one I just produced, which is from a hard drive, it will still attract to stainless steel. So, like I said, take that for what it is. I just did it in front of you. That's what it is. Moving on. Practical application, you would think, oh, this is titanium, this is going to be a lot lighter. But the reality is they're about the same weight, at least in the hand. I'm not sure. I think that Leatherman says that the Charge is very slightly lighter than the Leatherman Wave, like a fraction of an ounce, or around that area, give or take. And so in your hand, it doesn't really make a difference that it's made out of titanium. So where's the really, really big difference in these two tools? I think that comes to price. You have the Leatherman Charge, which Leatherman sells it, or their MSRP on their website says it's $170, and the Leatherman Wave's MSRP is $100. Now, obviously, you can get both of these tools for much less than the Leatherman MSRP. I picked up this Charge on eBay for $120, and then this Leatherman Wave I've had for a long time, and I think they're going on Amazon for, like 60, 70, 80 bucks. Somewhere in that price range. I'm not super certain. But, so whatever. You're going to save money. But Leatherman, the real thing is that Leatherman says this is 70% better tool than this. Or this is 70% extra offering than this. And I just don't think that's the case. Maybe if you think that, this tool is made out of titanium and that really speaks to me. And, the blade is mithril and stuff like that, and these materials are just so vastly superior to the stupid stainless steel ones that there's absolutely no way I wouldn't consider this titanium version. Then yeah, go for it. If you really are, if you want to have spacey materials in your multi-tool, or you want like a flashy EDC, then yeah, I think the Charge, that could be for you. But I've had this tool for a long time. This tool has a 25-year warranty, just like the Charge, obviously. But, there's really, I don't think there's anything wrong with stainless steel. And for $70 less, or 70% less expense, I think that the Wave is a clear choice. So, take it or leave it. That's my opinion. That's what I think of these two tools. I think they're both great tools. They both will probably outlive me. You really wouldn't be lessened by having one over the other. They're both fantastic choices in a multi-tool. So, just the choice is yours. That's really all I have to say. All right.